so very interested in the conversation surrounding culture, surrounding heritage,
Yeah.
surrounding the reclamation of the community aspect where diversity is allowed, expressed, and also, there's this very large conversation happening with cultural appropriation and the ancient knowledge, the ancient ways returning to us. And a lot
Yes.
of us, regardless of heritage, are latching on to parts and bits and pieces of these ancient ways because they resonate deeply with us. So many of us are just a modge podge of heritage anyway. So it makes sense that these little pieces might resonate, and much of heritage and culture originates from something much older,
Mhm.
much older, much older. You can just keep going back, and eventually we're just, again, all connected. And how these tools of the elder and their knowledge and the ways of being can serve us collectively in connection with one another. I was curious about what you said, that it feels really big and scary. I would love for you to expand upon the aspects that feel big and scary for you.
Mm. Yeah, wow. There are so many different facets of this, like so many different places that I could go with this answer. I think I'll speak to, the path that I feel like I'm being called to walk now, around this relationship piece and really doing like deep root work, repair work for a lot of the harm that has been created, from our ancestors, our white ancestors, and I don't want to have like a conversation necessarily about race. I think what I want to say is that I've spent a lot of time in Central and South America and have studied with elders in Peru, for many years now. And a couple of years ago, I went through this really deep mourning phase of very much seeing the kind of cultural effects, like long-term effects of colonization on the Western world,
Yeah.
from my time in an intact animist culture, from my time in a place where relationship with the plants and the animals and the earth and the wind and the water and the fire and the mountains was interwoven into life, and really seeing how so much of our mental health has been affected in the Western world. Our greed, I'm just going to say it, our greed.
Mhm.
So many of the ways that we relate to one another and our bodies as a result of this disconnect from the earth. And at the same time, I was really noticing a lot of the people in my world, clients, friends, family members, neighbors, all of these different people going through huge rites of passage in their lives,
Mm.
becoming a mom for the first time,
Yeah.
or, the kids leaving the house, to go to college, or you becoming the elder because your parent is the elder and can't take care of themselves anymore. And so these different things where people were crossing these thresholds of pain and challenge and change and walking through the fire of life, feeling really lost and alone in the unknown, and knowing from my experience with my teachers over the years that ceremony, that ritual, that community, that connection to the earth is so powerful in terms of being able to come together and process these major life moments. The thing is, like, I have had a lot of my own sense of, am I worthy to carry the medicine that I do? Am I worthy to be a white woman supporting people in these ancestral ways? And I've had a lot of, support and received blessings from my teachers, my elders in the indigenous communities, that have really supported me to work through a lot of that. And it's still something that I bump up against, because I'm like, oh God, like there's so much that I don't know. There's so much that I am learning. I will be a forever student to nature, and to the plants and to my tools, these different modalities, that whether it's, breath work or somatic work or making an herbal medicine, like those are practices that continue to unfold and evolve. And so I don't ever feel like I'll be an expert in those things, maybe more mature, more wise, over the years, that decade after decade, but still so much to learn. And, with my teachers and speaking to them and having conversations about this, I've really looked to my time in these other countries to help me to understand, aspects of my own lineage that I can begin to reclaim. And my lineage of herbalism that I've studied for the last 5.5 years is called the Wise Woman Tradition of Healing. And it's really this invisible modality, or this invisible tradition of healing, that it's like the tradition of our grandmothers. And it's really supported me to reconnect to the plants of my ancestry, the sacred smokes of my ancestry, the prayers or the ritual aspects. And that is something, I feel that as a white woman without an intact, like, family line, without an intact ancestral line all the way back to when my Celtic and European ancestors, the other whites, were sitting in ritual and ceremony and taking sacraments and, and expanding their consciousness through psychedelics. I don't have a direct line to that. And so much of what I have had to walk is to find ways to connect to the past that are informed and influenced by my time in Central and South America, but is not co-opted and not appropriated, meaning, offered for financial gain, like taking it and then offering it for financial gain, so like really walking that line of integrity. And so that's sort of my personal experience with it and journey, and it's ongoing, and there's so many layers and there's so much depth to it. And then there's this gap, I feel, that I see very often, and kind of have really had this experience over the last few years within my work with clients and what I'm kind of seeing happen in the world. And I'm not saying that it's bad or wrong, and that one way is right and one way is wrong. I think we're all, America's a young country, and we're all trying to, America as we know it is a young country. Yeah. They're the people that walked these lands before it was colonized, had these relationships and these ways of relating to nature. But what I see as this sort of severance from the earth has happened, that our culture, there are a lot of like younger parts at play, like younger internal parts, that I see a lot of people regurgitating tools and teachings and practices that haven't been fully embodied or digested. For example, ceremonial leaders in the West, we're seeing this a lot in the psychedelic space, a lot of folks that have had one or two ceremonies, plant medicine ceremonies, and then are serving medicine themselves without the proper training, without the relationship to the medicine, without the relationship to the lands that the medicines come from, without an elder to guide them. And again, we all have our own paths, but historically, ancestrally, in indigenous cultures, someone may study working with the plants for 60 years before they hold a ceremony, and so recognizing that loss of deep integrity in relationships and our youthful parts that just want to be seen, that just want to, have the answer, that want to make money, that want to like use this thing that's really helped them and share it with people, which is a beautiful thing. But there's such a sense of urgency in our culture to I don't know, get ahead, to earn. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's such a sense of urgency on so many levels within our culture that it kind of severs intentionality and embodiment in a way that I don't always think. It's like the subconscious shadow of the Western world, where I don't
Mm,
know that people are intentionally creating harm, and there's no perfect way as we're reclaiming these aspects of
mhm,
ourselves, and as we're building, the new and finding our way, and can we really start to explore where we come from, so that we know, can we reconnect with ancestral wisdom from our people, so that we can start to heal some of that severance that's happened.